Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Well, today we're going to pause. We're going to pause. We're going to paw. Anyway, I am delighted to have with us Marion Wells. She's authored a book, really is fascinating, Dogs to the Rescue. And she's written several books about the role of animals in our lives, including the best-selling book, 4 Paws. And today we're going to talk about dogs and how they are inspiring and maybe even inspirational in many, many ways. And, well, first of all, Marion, I want you to know you're talking to a dog lover.
Oh, that's great. Perry, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, delighted. We've had, numerous English Springer Spaniels in our lives, but recently, after losing our last one after 12 years, we bought a English setter. And she's the sweetest thing in the world. We're just loving her to death. She's really great.
Well, that's marvelous. I have 3 toy joys. They're about 7 to 7.5 pounds each. One's a Pomeranian, one's a Papillon mix, and the other's a Sheltie mix. Wow.
Well, ours is not quite the lap dog we're looking for, but when she hops up, the room goes dark. But anyway, well, this is really interesting. What inspired you to do this book?
Well, it's a wonderful story. It's Dogs to the Rescue, but in a sense, maybe God rescued me. I had actually co-written 5 previous titles, 3 about dogs, 2 about cats. They're devotional books. But I wasn't sure what God wanted me to do next, and I was praying. I had to be in Eugene, Oregon for other reasons. Asked if I could visit my publisher for the first time. They made a whole day of it, including a meeting with the publishing committee. And they said, "What would you like to do next?" And I said, "I'm not sure. What do you think?" And we started kicking ideas around the table, and they came up with Dogs to the Rescue. And I immediately said, it's a metaphor for God to the rescue. And these stories really are.
Wow. This is terrific. So what can we learn from dogs?
All kinds of things, but what we can really learn, I've been blown away by the variety of ways that dogs rescue us. Everything from trained assistants or service dogs that help people with multiple sclerosis, blindness, hearing impairment, all sorts of situations. Seizures, there are seizure alert dogs, to dogs that are therapy dogs and help adults and children work through grief situations. They help children with special needs. There's one dog in the book, a golden retriever named Chancer, who is the first ever service dog for a child with fetal alcohol syndrome. And this family, because this child's brain and central nervous system were so damaged, and the child was adopted from another country, and they found out a couple of years later that something was wrong, and they would not interrupt the adoption. They felt strongly that this was their child, but he was so unpredictable, and they never knew for sure what he would do. And it was so much stress on the family that they were like threads that were fraying and coming apart. And the mom heard about a service dog that had helped a child with autism, persuaded the dad that they should try this. Then the first day that Chancer was with their family was the first day this child slept through the night. They woke up in the morning and thought, what's wrong? Ran to his room, and the dog was lying on top of him, and he was just peacefully asleep. And they described the dog as a new thread that had wound the rest of them into a better braid.
Wow, what a story. Boy, there's so many issues that dogs are involved in with people's lives. You know, Dogs for the Deaf headquarters here in Southern Oregon, and of course we see them in training a lot around here, and so thankful for what they do. But it's amazing how dogs are used in that capacity in all walks of life.
I have 2 stories about dogs in that capacity in my book. One is called A Hearing Dog Goes to College. And this is a little 5-pound Papillon who's the service dog to a delightful young lady named Jenny. Jenny began to lose her hearing very young, and she was from a family that they were a can-do family. They said, all you can't do is hear. She even played high school basketball. they developed hand signals, and if someone had to get her attention, the other girl would stomp on the floor, and Jenny would hear the vibration and look over and realize they wanted her attention. But after she'd been in college, she realized, what will happen after school? What happens if I have an apartment and my roommate's gone or my husband's gone? And she thought a service dog would be a good idea. And she got little Minnie Pearl from a wonderful organization called Four Paws for Ability. And after training, Minnie Pearl went to college with her. And she alerts to all kinds of different sounds. And Jenny has even been student teaching. She has been observing in a normal second grade classroom. And the dog goes to school with her and is able to alert in the car if there's an ambulance or something like that. She has extra mirrors, but the dog gives her a warning that's even sooner than that. And the first day there, she told the kids all about Minnie Pearl, and they got to pet her. And she said after that, they were fine with the dog, and they never asked to pet her again because they understood that when Minnie Pearl was at school, she was working just like they were working when they were at school.
Wow, what a great story. Well, tell us, what have you learned about dogs and how it relates to God's love and God's faithfulness?
There are so many facets about what dogs do that show us about God. For example, loyalty and perseverance. One of the stories in my book is called Duke's Doggy Daycare. And Dora, Duke's master, had multiple sclerosis. When she first began having symptoms, it was decades ago, they did not have the same diagnostics that they do now. She became suddenly paralyzed on one side of her body, and the doctors suspected multiple sclerosis, but they weren't sure. She went home, she had a young family, the dad had to work, and they weren't sure how they were going to cope, and their German Shepherd Duke, who was not a trained service dog, stepped up, and he literally learned how to take his human potty. They would set her up on the daybed near the half bath downstairs. And if she felt nature's call and no one was around, she would tell Duke, "Duke, potty time." And this dog would lay his head on the bed. She would grab onto his collar, and he would very slowly back up and pull her upright. And once she was upright, she could get her feet over the side of the bed and furniture walk using different supports to get in and out of the bathroom. And that dog never felt inconvenienced. He never said, "How long is this going to go on?" He was always there for her. And then later, when she was better and they were moving, they put the dog in a locked room just for his safety. When the movers were there, he was so desperate to get to her that he literally chewed the doorknob to a cone to get out and be with her.
Wow. That is amazing. You know, I've learned from dogs, they're extremely faithful, as you know, and they don't pretend, do they? They're just open, honest.
They are completely real and honest, but they're also loving and non-judgmental. You mentioned my earlier books. The first book we did, Four Paws from Heaven, Devotions for Dog Lovers. My co-author, Chris Young, wrote a story about Gracie, and one of his points was that he never looked at her like, "Oh, you ugly thing," when he first got up in the morning. He never saw the growth of beard. He never saw any of those negatives. He just loved her because he was her person, so she just loved him no matter what.
You know, we've also learned, Marion, that dogs and cats can really help people in recovery. They can help people with blood pressure. Just their loyalty and their love and their faithfulness helps us in so many ways.
And there's a great story about that in the book. It's called A Healing Paw in Loss. And Lori, the person in the story, was about to give birth. She and her husband lived in Boston. It was their first child. It was winter. They thought they wanted a dog. They thought, it's cold, we can't go anywhere. It's a great time to get a dog. And so they reserved a Siberian Husky puppy. And then Lori gave birth, and there was a tragedy at the birth. There was a C-section, the umbilical cord became knotted, and the baby's waste leaked into the amniotic fluid, and the baby developed pneumonia and died. And it was awful. And she was grieving this child. Her husband had to go back to work eventually, and she was all alone with an empty nursery and her tears. But then it was time to pick up the little puppy. And she almost didn't go through with it, but she got the puppy, and she realized the first day she had the puppy was the first day she hadn't cried. And just having that puppy helped her heal.
Well, the book is entitled Dogs to the Rescue, Inspirational Stories of Our Four-Footed Heroes. For those watching on theDove TV, you can see a picture of it on the screen. Check it out by M.R. Wells and Marion Wells. Let me encourage you to get a copy of this. It is very inspiring. And if you're not a dog lover, become one.
On Amazon.com, there's a look inside feature, and they can actually look inside the book and browse the table of contents and read some excerpts from some of the stories.
Hey, Marion, thanks for being with us today. Keep up the good work. What a delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Welcome back. Well, as you know, there's an election cycle going on, and coming up in May is Oregon's primary. And there are several people vying for the Republican nomination to run against U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley. One of the candidates is Dr. Monica Wehby. She's a Republican Senate candidate. She's also a practicing pediatrics neurosurgeon. So why would she give up years and years and years of training to become a pediatrics neurosurgeon to run for the U.S. Senate? Well, let's learn that together as we talk to Monica. Well, today we are delighted to have with us senatorial candidate Dr. Monica Wehby. She is running for the U.S. Senate against Jeff Merkley. And as you know, this is a big race in the state of Oregon, and it looks like the Republicans could take it. And that would be a nice, refreshing change, to say the least.
That would be a very change.
So, Dr. Wehby, nice to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you this morning?
Great. Just doing fine.
The sun's shining for a change. We got to take that for granted, huh?
Yeah. Well, listen, you are a very accomplished physician, and I don't know what would take you from that incredible work that you do as a pediatric neurosurgeon to politics, but maybe you can tell me what you put on your cereal the morning that you decided to do this.
A lot of people have asked me if I went off my medication or something.
What drew you to do this?
Oh, you know, I get asked that a lot. The first question that most people ask me is, why are you doing it? And when I was looking at this race and talking about it with my family, you know, I have 4 teenagers, and one of my sons said, Mom, he said, why would you leave a job that you trained until you're 35 years old to do, and that everybody loves you, to take a job where people say all sorts of mean things about you? And,
yeah.
And I told him, you know, it's kind of always remember a little brain tumor patient that I took care of a few years ago, a teenager, and he came back to me afterwards and gave me a thank you note. And in that card, it said, if we're not here to make life better for one another, then what's the point? And I've always, you know, I know it might sound kind of hokey, but that's the way I've always lived my life. I've always tried to do what I could to take care of other people and make things better. And being a doctor and being a physician, we really do look at things in a different way. We're problem solvers. And I think right now, at this time in the country, that's something that we really need, is someone that can get in there and look at all sides of an issue and try to solve the problems.
Well, as a physician, as you know, probably the most heated discussion today is Obamacare. Was that a factor for you to get involved in this?
Well, it was just another reason to do it. You know, I overall care a lot about the direction of our country. And when you think about the generations before us and what they've done to build a country like we have, where everyone has the opportunity to achieve the American dream, where they can start from anywhere and be what they want to be through hard work and motivation and a little bit of luck and support from each other. You know, that's the country that we live in. And I worry because I see a change in that, more and more government takeover of every single aspect of our life. And I don't believe that that's going to provide the sorts of opportunity that I want for my children. I want them to be able to be anything they want to be, just the way that things were when we were growing up. I mean, I used to work at McDonald's, and now I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon. I mean, you can go anywhere in this country.
We have a lot of issues, as you know, doctor, that are out there. I mean, I don't know what our foreign policy is.
I don't think anybody knows what our
I don't think anybody knows what our foreign policy is.
I'm not sure we have a foreign policy.
Well, I don't think we do. Our deficit's out of control. Obamacare is a mess. Cover Oregon's a mess. And I realize you would be one vote. But how would you prioritize the issues? I mean, I know they're all important, but have you actually prioritized them in your thinking?
I think, of course, the most important thing right now are jobs in the economy, and then everything falls from that. You know, first of all, we've got to get our economy growing. There's so much money and potential that's on the sidelines because of all the uncertainty of what's going on. You know, businesses don't know whether to take the risk and invest in their companies or whether to just kind of hunker down and wait. I mean, and we've got, you know, a huge effect on jobs and economy. A huge drag is the healthcare law. You know, and look at what's happening with that. It keeps changing. You know, the president keeps delaying or changing parts of this law independently. So it makes it very difficult to plan. And, you know, business owners are all about adding and subtracting and you know, doing the math. And if you don't know what's going out or what's coming in, it makes it impossible to grow your business.
Wow. All right, let's take a look at a couple of the issues. First of all, the raising of the debt ceiling. How would you handle that?
I think it's very important that we try to get this budget under control. We just cannot keep spending money that we don't have. And there are so many areas where there's duplication. For example, in job training programs, I believe there's about 47 of these different job training programs out there. And a lot of them are duplicative, and we have no idea which ones work, which ones don't. I mean, there's so much waste in the government that if we could just start going through item by item and getting rid of things that don't benefit us, we'd be able to save money and move things ahead. I believe it's more a spending problem than a revenue problem.
Okay, where are you with education?
Well, I believe that best education comes from when it's derived from the local community, from our local state and community teachers, our parents, when parents are involved. I don't believe we need a top-down federal government approach to that. Once you start having federal government involved in what we teach our children, you know, every community is different and children learn differently. So we need that flexibility from community to community.
As you know, this administration has cut defense spending in a very critical time in U.S. history and the vulnerability of us today. Can we respond? What's your thinking on that?
I'm very concerned about that. I think at this point in time, you know, as we mentioned earlier, nobody really knows what our foreign policy is. Our friends aren't confident that we have their back. They're not confident that we're going to be there. And our enemies no longer fear us. I mean, we'll go out there and draw red lines, but when these lines are crossed, nothing happens. And so, and when we start to cut back on our military, I think that also sends a signal to those that count on us and rely on us that, we may not be there if they need us, if we're not operating from a position of strength. And I think when we leave a vacuum, if we leave a vacuum there of leadership, then it's going to be filled by someone who is less benevolent than we are. I mean, we're seeing that happen now.
All right. And thanks for these quick answers, because I want to take advantage of having you for the short period of time. Immigration, big issue. It doesn't look like the U.S. House of Representatives is going to kick it forward this go-around, primarily because of the election cycle. What's your take on the immigration issue in this country?
Well, I really believe that this is a national security issue. It's very important for us to know who is here, just for national security reasons. And of course, the first thing we have to do is secure our borders so that we can stabilize the situation. We'll hear that, some reports say our borders are 95% secure. Others will say that, they're porous. We really have no idea of what the situation is with our borders. So first of all, we have to do that. Second of all, I don't really support amnesty. I believe that that is really unfair to those who made an effort to come here legally. And it's not fair to those people who have followed the law. And I don't think we should be rewarding people that break the law. We have a lot of immigration laws that we're not enforcing that should be enforced. But I also don't think it's practical to try to round up everybody and send them back. I think we do have to find a way to find out who's here and give them some sort of legal status where they can work in this country with us, knowing who is here, whether it's a temporary work visa for some of our seasonal workers that are so important for our agriculture industry, or whether it's, green cards, visas, high-tech visas, whatever. But I think we've got to know who's here.
All right. I'm going to run out of time, but let me ask you quickly on some of the big three social issues. You got where would you be with abortion, where would you be with gun control, and where would you be on traditional marriages?
Want me to hit all three?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, with the life argument, I was raised in Tennessee. I grew up in the South. I'm a Catholic and still a very strong Catholic. And I've dedicated my life to taking care of little babies and infants and children. I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon. And, and I've held those little 23-week-old babies in my hand. You can actually hold those babies in your hand, and I operate on their brains. They're just a little bit bigger than a walnut on those little babies. And I think those of us that are pro-life, we need to extend a culture of life in society. We need to let people know that if you find yourself with an unwanted pregnancy, that there are options other than terminating that baby. We need to provide prenatal care. We need to encourage adoption. And I counsel, this is not a hypothetical situation for me. I counsel moms all the time with babies that have congenital anomalies. But, and I never recommend termination of a pregnancy, but I do counsel the families, and this is a personal decision for them. And in this country, this is a personal decision between a woman and her faith, a woman and her family, a woman and her doctor, not a woman and the federal government.
Okay. Guns?
I'm a proud supporter of the Second Amendment. I do believe that we already have adequate laws on the books. We just need to enforce those laws. And I wouldn't favor any new laws that are going to restrict our law-abiding citizens. And I also think we have to be very careful about gradual erosion of our gun rights as well, because that's the way things tend to happen, is piecemeal, one thing after a time. You have to be very careful about that. I also do not support the UN Small Arms Treaty.
All right, and defense of marriage.
I believe that this is a personal freedom issue. We are Republicans, and we believe that the government should not be micromanaging our lives. And I believe that in this situation as well. This is a personal decision for people. I don't think the federal government should be involved in the marriage business. I think we should respect each other's personal rights. And in doing so, I also don't think that we should force religious groups or other groups to perform ceremonies that they don't believe in.
All right. Any last minute thoughts? And again, let people know where they can go and support your campaign.
Well, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to your viewers, and I think that together, the Republicans are a big tent party, and I think, we may not agree on every single issue, but I think we agree on the big issues that we've got to pull each other together and turn this country back around. And my website is monicafororegon.com. I'm happy to hear from any of your viewers. And if anyone has any questions that we didn't cover, I would love for them to go to the website and take a look. And I would very much appreciate their support and their vote.
All right. Well, Dr. Wehby, thank you. Thanks for what you're doing. And thanks for stepping out of your comfort zone and taking this one on.
Thank you for having me. This is my first Skype interview.
You did great. You look wonderful. All right. We'll talk again soon.
I hope the sun's shining down there.
Hey, well, there you are. And Senator, well, she wants to be U.S. Senator, and she is now Dr. Monica Wehby, and you can go to her website. Coming up next, we're going to continue on with something else that is almost equally as controversial. Global warming versus climate change. What side of the argument are you on? You'd be surprised who you find yourself with these days. John Mittendorf's in the house coming up next.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. Compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back. John Mittendorf's with us, and we're continuing on with our series, Global Warming, Climate Change, which has been an interesting debate worldwide, and certainly as it comes into this election cycle. But before we go there, coming up this weekend is the release of the movie Noah, put out by Paramount Pictures. They have been noted to spend up to $300 million making this movie, and it comes out of the chutes with great controversy. A lot of people on the Christian side say, don't go see it because it's not biblically accurate. A lot of people on the Christian side saying, go see it because it does create a lot of discussion. And after all, it is Hollywood's attempt to try to win us into some kind of alliance. And the NRB was able to negotiate, John, at the beginning of that movie, the disclaimer that basically says, well,
the movie was based on the Bible.
Right. It basically said it's inspired. The movie is inspired by the biblical story Noah, which leaves opening for the fact that it's not totally accurate. Either way, it comes out this weekend, and even the Mail Tribune had quite an article on it. So you are going to go see it for us.
You and I discussed doing a special program on that next week, and so I volunteered only for scientific purposes, mind you.
Yeah, I'm sure, right, to go see it.
Jan and I are going to go watch it this weekend, and then we're going to do a special program on it Tuesday morning.
All right, look, we know that Hollywood's not going to be 100% biblically accurate. Ray Comfort was very upset with the premiere showing. He got up and walked out and went out and decided to make his own movie about Noah.
Which he did.
Which is fine. But if it does anything but create interest in the story, the biblical story of Noah, and sticks people's nose back in the Bible to read it, I think it's a good thing.
Yep, and it might do that. We were talking before the show this morning, and I mentioned that both Institution of Creation Research and Answers in Genesis normally have a booth at the National Education Association's annual conference, right. which is a big deal.
The NEA,
which is not biblically based, by the way.
No.
So the top question that is usually put to those booths are, you can't believe the flood, you don't believe Noah's Ark, everything's centered around the flood, you can't really believe that all the animals got on the ark and then God saved mankind out of the ark. You can't believe that. And so I think one of the things we'll talk about next week is not only the movie, but maybe some scientific information on the ark, because this is going to come up from people that their neighbors, it's a great witnessing tool. Did you see the movie? What did you think of the movie?
No, yeah.
What do you think about the scientific evidence for a flood? What do you think about the scientific evidence for the ark? And if you have a basic understanding of the flood, the ark, and how it was done, and the scientific evidence behind that, it can become a very good witnessing tool.
Well, you and I have touched all the way around this from various shows past, even to the strata layers inside the Grand Canyon and such. So John's going to go watch it.
Scientific purposes only. Remember that.
Oh, yeah,
remember
right.
that.
Go ahead and enjoy it. Actually, I saw a lot of the trailers and the outcuts from the movie when we were at the NRB, and I want to tell you, this thing, production value-wise, is top drawer. It is very well produced. They made 2 arks when they were doing this. One was about a third built, the other one a little bit larger when they were doing the movie Noah. Yes, it's not biblically accurate in some areas. There's no question about it. It's Hollywood trying to be Hollywood. And the production value. But I do think it does one thing. It does produce conversation about the story of Noah. Now, here's a question I want to ask all of those who watch and listen to the Dove TV. Can you defend the biblical account of Noah? Can you defend it? And so what John's going to do is go watch this, come back, use that as a springboard to defend the subject of Noah in the Bible, and to go into the scientific part of it, and how did the earth erupt into all of this water and all of that. I'll save that for later.
Okay, we'll save that. Yeah. So,
right.
And by the way, we're going to do that on Tuesday at 8:30.
All right. Now, folks, let me also encourage you to, because in the movie of Noah put out by Paramount, there is a little global warming in there.
Yes, there is.
And so it does get touched on. Which is the big topic of the day, global warming versus climate change. By the way, Hillary Clinton came out over the weekend and has decided that climate change, not global warming. Now, global warming was the big thing. They've had to move it over and change all of that to climate change to make it a little bit more acceptable, because after all, we came through some of the coldest winters in the U.S. history, highest snowfalls in U.S. history.
And they're still getting snow.
And they're still getting snow, and they're blaming that on global warming, but actually now they're blaming it on climate change. So Hillary Clinton decides that this should be a global political movement for young people. Well, there you go. There's the perfect way to get a lot of people on board to vote for you coming up in 2016. So, John, you dove into this and help us.
You know, out of all the subjects that I've studied for, this one, I think, even eclipses the evolution-creation debate as far as something that is politically and media charged.
Right.
And you can find very, very good people on both sides of the equation on this. And I want to read just a couple that I found very interesting. According to Senator James Inhofe, America's major media have predicted an impending global climate crisis 4 different times over the past 100 years, and have alternated between global warming and climate change, wiping out entire countries, and billions would die. Similar to Al Gore's 2006 movie, Inconvenient Truth. Is similar. And then this one I found very interesting. Senator Harry Reid, leader of the Senate, since 2008, has found that, and by the way, I'm going to use global warming as the umbrella for our discussion, because there are some similarities between that and climate change.
But global warming is the one that really gets all the attention.
Exactly right, and that's basically where it started out. Is a Senate leader has not found very much worth to global warming until recently. In fact, in 2010, he squelched his party's efforts to pass a climate change bill.
Wow.
However, March 10th, just a couple of weeks ago, he suddenly found it politically expedient to initiate a 15-hour overnight talkathon on global warming, and this is what he said. Climate change is real, it's here, and it's time to stop acting as if those who ignore it have a valid point of view, because they don't. So all of a sudden, global warming is a big deal. It's actually going to be one of the major platforms of the Democratic Party 2016.
No question about it.
And then on the other side of the coin, interesting, Dr. Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace, recently testified before the U.S. Senate. And by the way, he has backed away from Greenpeace now because of what I'm going to say here. This is what he said to the U.S. Senate. There is no scientific proof that human emissions of carbon dioxide are the dominant cause of the warming of the Earth's atmosphere over the past 100 years.
Okay.
So you can find people on either side, but if you listen to the media, if you listen to the news, if you watch television, if you read the Tribune, as an example, all the newspapers, it's going to be carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide, global warming ad infinitum.
All right, which is now slowly being changed to climate change.
Slowly being changed to climate change, right.
For the means of discussion and argument.
Right. Now last week, we started off, our last program, I should say, we started off, and I said I wanted to start with a biblical perspective on this, because I think everything grows out of that. And I want to go back and revisit that, because we talked about briefly that in the first and second chapter of Genesis, it's very, very clear that in God's hierarchy, man is number one and the earth is number two. In fact, in Genesis 1 and 2, it clearly says that God created man, Adam and Eve, and put them on this earth to rule over it and to till it, which means to use it for your benefit. Now, that doesn't mean that we're supposed to go out and just wantonly destroy the earth. No. But if you look at God's hierarchy of importance, man comes first, earth comes second. So I think we can say then, as a result of that, we have a direct responsibility from God to care for what we've been entrusted with. And the question is, are we doing that? You know, are we doing that? But something else that I started to think about is that a common theme in environmentalism, and I found this in several places, and I'm quoting here, the best environment is one that is untouched by human hands. Have you ever heard that one before? Yeah, yes you have. But that's not what's delineated in Genesis 1 and 2. And so I want to just briefly, before we continue, consider Romans 1:25 that states, who exchanged the truth of God for the lie and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator. And that's called pantheism. In other words, what we've done is we've taken the earth and we've put it down into the number 2 spot. Excuse me, we've taken man and we've put man into the number 2 spot, and we've taken the earth and put earth up into the number 1 spot.
Have you ever heard the term Mother Earth?
Mother Earth.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll wrap this up, the discussion between global warming and climate change with John Mittendorf in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back with John Mittendorf. By the way, today's notes are available. We have them here at the Dove. They are beautifully put together, and you're welcome to come by and get a copy. They'll also be on our website. You can download them there. And where else, John?
My email too, which is hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
Hispeoplerejoice, one word, hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
Also, real quick, Perry, out of all the material that I study, and there's a lot of it that's available out there, people that are really interested in this subject, the best source that I have found that I think covers everything from three perspectives: the biblical perspective, the scientific perspective, and the environmentalist perspective, is the DVD Global Warming, which you can get from Answers in Genesis, and that's Global Warming, which features numerous renowned PhDs on the subject. It is, and they cover all, they give equal time to all three viewpoints.
Right.
It is excellent.
All right.
No, excuse me, it is outstanding.
Okay. All right. All right, we're going to run out of time. Go for it, John.
Okay, let's go for it. Let's just do a real quick review, Perry, and then get into the big question: is man causing global warming? Last time we talked about, is global warming really taking place? Yes, it is. The temperature has increased since about 1880, 1.2 degrees Fahrenheit. So just keep that in mind. Greenhouse gases are responsible for life on this earth. That is a true statement. However, the four greenhouse gases are water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, and ozone. Out of those four, water vapor is the primary greenhouse gas. That's 95% of the greenhouse gases. So right off the bat, you can see that carbon dioxide is a minor, very minor gas. It's less than 5%. Global warming will drive many plants and animals to extinction. There is no scientific evidence of that. The oceans will dramatically rise during the next century. And Al Gore in his movie said, oh boy, they're going to raise 20 feet and all this calamity is going to happen, and there's no scientific evidence to support that. In fact, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is IPCC, it's easier for me to pronounce, they back global warming 100%, has said that they expect in the next century the oceans might rise 12 to 16 inches. So that's not the calamity that Al Gore predicted by a long shot. Weather catastrophes will increase due to global warming. You know what's interesting? In Genesis 8:22, this is what it states, and this is right after the flood when Noah walked off the ark. This is what God told him. While the earth remains, this is Genesis 8:22, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease. At the flood, and we can talk more about this next week, the climatology of the universe, of this planet, dramatically changed. And in Genesis 8:22, God says that's what you're going to have post-flood. Heat, cold, summer, winter, and so on. And that's exactly what we're seeing. It's exactly what we're seeing.
And the cycles of that, I think the big picture, I know that Leon refers to this and other meteorologists will refer to as the cycles.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that just, in fact, right now. And lastly, are humans causing global warming? And that is the big question. Okay, I just said that yes, global warming is happening, that the temperature has gone up 1.2 degrees Fahrenheit, but that doesn't tell me why it's going up. So let's talk about that just for a second. And what I did, particularly in the notes, and there's a lot more information in the notes than what we're talking about this morning, I've separated that into two basic categories: natural causes and human causes. Okay? Let's talk about natural causes first. It's interesting that if you look at the temperatures on the earth since the flood, they're cyclic, and I think Leon has said that before. In fact, after the Ice Age, temperatures have fluctuated only a couple degrees from the Ice Age up until now. As an example, AD 900 to 1300 was considered a warm period. It was about 2 degrees warmer. Okay? Then you had the Little Ice Age, which ended around 1880. Well, from 1400 to 1880, the temperature dropped about 2 degrees. So prior to that, you had a 2-degree rise. After that, you had a 2 degrees lowering, and now you have about a 1.2 degree rise again. So it's easy to see when you look at the temperatures, particularly since the flood, they've been cyclic. They also have discovered, particularly now that we have satellites and our science is a lot better, an interesting term called total solar irradiance. Now, I thought I'd throw that in there just so I could see the deer in the headlights.
Okay.
And basically what that means, Perry, is they used to think that the rays, the ultraviolet rays from the sun were constant. And now they know that they're not by a long shot. And sunspots have a lot to do with that. In fact, it's interesting that if you look at In fact, I wrote this down because I want to be accurate on this. If you look at a graphic representation of the Earth's temperatures versus sunspot cycles, so when you have a sunspot, you're going to have a momentary increase of heat for however long the sunspot lasts. And you've seen solar storms and what have you on the sun. Okay. If you look at a graphic representation of Earth temperatures versus sunspot cycles, it reveals that from about 1880 until 2008, the rise and fall of Earth temperatures almost exactly follow the rise and fall of sunspot cycles.
Wow.
So as the sun increases its heat, its ultraviolet radiation to the Earth, and by the way, what is the biggest reservoir of carbon dioxide on this planet?
Water?
Water. It's the oceans.
Right.
2/3 of this Earth, almost 70% of this Earth is water. So as the sun's radiations come through our atmosphere and strike the Earth becomes warmer. And the oceans then release more carbon dioxide. Then, as the sun's radiation recedes, isn't quite as high, then the Earth starts to become cooler, and then you have less carbon dioxide. By the way, did you know that carbon dioxide can be very, very beneficial?
Well, we all need it.
So do plants.
Yeah.
And plants create
Carbon dioxide.
oxygen
yeah.
out of carbon dioxide.
Right.
And what's interesting, if you do some research, you'll find that a lot of scientists are saying, you know, there could be a positive byproduct of carbon dioxide, because if plant life loves it, and I think Timinator would say in these hothouses, he increases carbon dioxide and the plants just bloom their heads off, you're going to have more parts of the Earth that would be habitable. In reality. I mean, that's another subject. So, when you say natural causes, I think you can look at a lot of the rise and fall of temperatures on the Earth is directly attributable to the sun and the sun's radiation.
If the greatest reservoir of carbon dioxide is water,
the oceans,
and the ocean, and that causes those temperatures to go up and down, that creates the El Nino and the La Nina cycle. You know,
it can, Perry, but those are just short-term weather patterns. They're not long-term weather patterns. And something else I discovered, that since 1980, we've been doing very, very precise weather measurements with satellites. And when people say the Earth is warming, you have to ask the question, what part of the Earth is warming? Is it the surface, which is basically what they measured prior to 1980, when they started measuring it by satellites, because that's basically all they were capable of doing, unless they send a weather balloon up and they took a quick measurement. So when you measure on the Earth's surface, are you measuring from an urban environment, a city, which is going to be higher, or a rural environment, which is going to be lower? See the difference?
Yeah.
Now that we have satellites, we can measure actually the Earth's atmosphere. Basically is where we want to be looking at the temperatures.
Okay.
See?
We got about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Are humans causing this?
Human causes. It's interesting. Carbon dioxide is constantly presented as a pollutant, and basically from the industrial age, which basically is being attacked. And three things basically releases carbon dioxide in the atmosphere from a human perspective: fossil fuels, cement production, and deforestation. However, how much of that really is causing an increase of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, particularly when it's a very, very, less than 5% minor greenhouse gas? If you conservatively figure 50% natural causes and 50% human causes, and that's, I'm being generous on that.
Yeah.
Remember I said that the Earth has warmed by 1.2 degrees Fahrenheit, correct? That means if you want to assume the worst case scenario, humans have caused a 0.6 degree Fahrenheit increase. Is that noteworthy? Far from it. Far from it.
All right, let me just say to all of you, this was a quick review of this problem.
Yeah, the notes are a lot more definitive.
By far more detailed.
Yeah.
If you'd like a copy of John's research, you can come by here at the Dove and pick them up.
Do we have 15 more seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. I think people should be aware of the fact, because you will never see this in the media, that the Global Warming Petition Project, and you can go on the internet and just type in Global Warming Petition Project, has signed over 31,000 American scientists, over 9,000 with PhDs, and this is what they've signed. There is no convincing scientific evidence that human release of carbon dioxide, methane, or other greenhouse gases is causing or will, in the foreseeable future, cause catastrophic heating of the Earth's atmosphere and disruption of the Earth's climate.
Moreover, where can they find that? We're out of time. Where can they find that?
Okay, Global Warming Petition Project.
All right, and you can come by here at the Dove and get a copy of the notes. We'll make them available to you. Thank you, John, and stick around. Tuesday, we're going to do The Flood and Noah after the movie review coming up next week.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.